Welcome to the Grappling Grappling Rewind Podcast.
Welcome to this week on the Grappling Rewind Podcast. On this week's show, we have a loaded show. We have a bunch of news. We're going to talk about 1FC. We're going to talk about Cade Rotolo versus Tommy Langacker 2. We're going to recap the 2024 IBJJF European Championships. We're going to talk about Fight to Win 244 in Honolulu, Hawaii. We are also going to preview a bunch of upcoming events and talk about Karate Combat's Pit Submission Series. As always on the show, I'm your host, Maine, my co-host,
Miranda.
How you doing, Miranda?
Pretty good. How are you?
Doing pretty good. You put together a hell of a, what do you call that, notes section for this week.
Yeah, I try.
Yeah.
I've been trying to use my computer more because I feel like it makes more sense so that we can both add to it.
Yeah. And we added the document right now, I think, is what? It's 11 pages right now.
Yeah,
so
but
it's
because Euros is so huge.
Yeah, Euros is big this year. A lot of fun. Let's get right into it because it's going to be a long show, and it is already a later recording on a Monday evening. Biggest news this week.
Grappler's Quest is back.
That is the big news this week. Yeah, you found that.
It was in Guam this weekend. It was a free tournament.
Brandon Vera put it on.
Yeah.
The ex-UFC fighter, ex-MMA fighter, Brandon Vera. Grappler's Quest has been gone, I think, since 2012.
It was before my time.
Yeah.
And everybody that I know that exists from before my time talks about how amazing those tournaments were and how, like, Naga's nothing and Grappler's Quest was the best. Yeah, and I don't know if that's just because
of nostalgia or the time or whatever.
They forget, or if it's because it actually was amazing. But
they put on some cool tournaments.
Yeah.
They have some really cool pro tournaments back in the day and some cool footage. So it is cool that they are essentially maybe back at least in Guam for this one event. So
maybe just Guam,
but that is big news. An old, formerly kind of defunct promotion actually making a return for the first time in a lot of years. They've been talking about coming back for a long time.
Yeah.
So in other big news, PFL Season 6 is coming out. They are really seem to be putting a ton behind it.
It's not PFL. It's PGF.
PGF. I always want to call it PFL.
PFL is
the Professional Grappling Federation.
The other one's fighting.
Yeah, Professional Fighters League.
Yeah.
Is coming out. It has a $100,000 cash prize for Season 6.
Yeah.
People have been a big fan of PGF for a long time. We've covered it off and on over the years. We always get messages whenever a new season drops. Cover PGF. So with this much of a cash prize, depending on how this season...
and with the coaches.
Depending on how the season is configured, we may get a chance to cover it this season. But coaches are Eddie Bravo, Jeff Glover, Andre Galvao, and Roger Gracie. $100,000 to the winning team with $20,000 additional in a playoff bracket. It launches in Las Vegas, Nevada on April 21st. I figure with those coaches, it should be April 20th probably. But
yeah,
2024.
Well, it probably comes out on a Monday because I think that's probably the air date.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Because they probably either already filmed it or they're in the process of filming it.
Yeah. So big news. Again, we always like to talk about promotions putting money to grapplers and actually like paying out the athletes. That's
and this is
one of the things we champion the most.
This is the one guy. This is the guy. The Five-Finger Death Punch guy.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, and I did figure out that was the guy I saw at Master Worlds.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a guy. He has like all kinds of dreadlocks. And he has a stage presence. That's the only way you can explain it. Because, like, you watch this guy walk out to the mat, and there's a way people walk out when they have, like, a confidence. Mm-hmm. And you're like, there's something there. I don't know what it is, but there's something. And we couldn't figure it out. And then we realized, he's
on the poster, and he's tagging the poster. Oh, it's the lead singer for Five-Finger Death Punch.
He also competes in his gi sometimes.
Well, he's a judo black belt and a jiu-jitsu black belt. So,
but compete in your gi, do you know how hot that would be? It'd be ridiculously hot.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So... that's coming out. Also, we have a new tournament. What other news do we have this week? I feel like those are the big pieces of news. I sent you something else.
Yeah, there was another tournament. You sent it to the chat, and then I just ignored it and didn't write it down.
It's been a very busy week.
So there's the Zapatero $100,000.
Yes, the Zapatero one as well is coming out. So, two tournaments coming out announcing a $100,000 cash prize. Zapatero was one of the teams represented on the Enigma Invitational. We are not going to get a chance to cover the Enigma Invitational this week because we purchased it and it is not available for replay. So, we're trying to figure out how to watch it because we fell asleep.
Yeah.
So... Maybe next week.
Yeah, it was. I think there was like 15 super fights before the brackets even started.
It was a longer card.
It was a long card.
But Zapatero has also announced a $100,000 prize for their upcoming World Championships.
160 pounds.
Yeah.
Yeah, 160.
So that'll be cool. Again, love hearing grapplers getting paid. It's going to be a very long show. Let's get right into it. ONE FC, it was on pay-per-view. So we're just going to talk about one match from it. Tommy Langacker took on Cade Bertolo again, the rematch.
You can find this online if you look hard enough. If you look hard
or
enough.
by the pay-per-view.
Or by the pay-per-view.
Holy shit. Cade Bertolo. We've talked about Tommy Langacker a lot recently. He's been very active. He has a disgustingly flexible leg and leg lock defense and great game.
Yeah.
Go watch him at European trials, all the events we've covered Tommy over the years.
He's somebody that actually has to be broken to stop.
Yeah.
And I feel like even if he's broken, he still keeps going.
Cade did not let Tommy Langacker into this match.
No.
Once. There was one sequence late in the match where Tommy Langacker kind of starts to go for an outside heel hook variation, and Cade Bertolo goes, that's annoying, steps up, readdresses the single leg X, turns out to the outside, then turns back to the inside, and floats over the leg, and then readdresses Tommy's guard and stamps his foot back down.
I think one of the comments that was also made was that Tommy said that he wanted to go into this match more relaxed than he normally was.
And Cade went, I'm going to push the pace super hard.
And Tommy expected Cade to kind of like phase out after time. And
Cade did not do that.
Cade did not allow that to happen.
This match essentially ended. No submission, goes to the decision very clearly for Cade Bertolo. This match ended with basically Cade throwing up a teepee choke triangle on Tommy Langacker.
Yeah, and he was like putting his fist in there, like punch choke, all kinds of stuff.
He threw up a couple of different darshes, two of which were pretty deep darsh chokes. Yeah. So he didn't get a catch for the first darsh choke that he threw in. And then I'm curious if Herb Dean remembered that he had to call catches, because the commentary said that. And then the second darsh choke later in the match, Herb Dean called a catch for it. It looked deeper.
Yeah.
But they were both very deep darsh attempts that Tommy Langacker had to roll all the way through in one or both of the darce attempts here. Cade Bertolo is able to get to
crucifix?
But like a modified crucifix off of this. So Tommy Langacker runs out of the darce and rolls underneath in a pretty uncommon darce defense, but it is something we see at the high levels. Like, it's not just put your hands together and turn. It's actually getting your hips down and out rotating your hips as they try to darce you. It is something that if you're on a high level, you will get put to sleep doing.
Yeah.
But guys at the high level, there's a position you have to have your shoulders and hips where you can make it work.
Yeah.
Tommy Langacker doesn't. Cade Bertolo realizes that Tommy Langacker is making this out roll.
Yeah.
And then tracks him, and then jumps over, and then switches his hips under to end Langacker in the crucifix off of the darce escape.
Yeah.
I have never seen someone make that transition.
No, I haven't either.
That tells you what this match looked like.
Yeah.
Like, Cade Bertolo, we were curious in our pre-show lead up to this if, because Cade hadn't had a lot of matches recently, didn't ONE FC, and even the commentator brought it up.
Cade's last match was Tommy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Tommy Langacker has all of these matches since then. We were talking about, like, hey, is Cade, because we've seen it before from athletes that are maybe less active, they kind of take breaks and time off, the sport kind of moves, especially early in their career, like where they were told, not early in the career, but like earlier in their black belt career, where the Rotolos are, where they kind of need to be on that pushing edge.
But you also see, I bet Cade and Ty both
push each other.
I bet you they war at home.
Yeah, and they have for 20 years almost.
I bet you there is no relaxing, because I bet you one like executes the other one if anybody like gives them any time.
Iron sharpens iron in that garage.
And then sprinkle in a little bit of AJ Agazarm,
a little Andre Galvao there. Yeah. So
whoever else wanders into their little
that thought I had about Cade Bertolo potentially not being as sharp, having time off, that's wrong. Like,
well, I also wondered, because if you look at their stuff, like they're talking about a lot about building their
opening
school.
a gym in Costa Rica and
normally,
everything that comes with that.
Generally, when most athletes go and open gyms
or become coaches and start taking on those responsibilities,
their competition ability kind of
It
suffers.
fades. You see, it's a weird thing we see in jiu-jitsu that we don't see in any other professional
Well,
sport.
it's because you have to put your mindset. You have to put your mind somewhere.
And you have to put
else.
food on the table and money on the table,
Yeah.
and you do that from opening competing. But imagine if LeBron James, in the peak of his career, suddenly started a basketball camp and team. Like, he would fade as a player because
Yeah.
he has committed and split his interest and his time. Jiu-jitsu athletes do that all the time, and
Yeah.
that was our worry with Cade. That is not the case.
No.
This is the most we have seen anyone like work Langacker in a long time.
Yeah.
And it was at weight,
And even
man, it was crazy.
normally you can kind of put it on Tommy for a little bit, and then at some point he comes out of nowhere and takes her back. And he tried this once against Cade, and it just didn't go anywhere. I like how the one time I accidentally put one extra L, so it becomes Ruotolo laugh out loud.
Ruotolo. Yeah.
Because it is kind of hilarious, some of his movements. Because I just
he's so good. I really hope that his ONE FC contract allows him to defend his ADCC title. He hasn't been announced yet. Like, kind of got announced for it. Like, I really hope we see him in ADCC because, man, he looks impressive. Like, I do not know who they would possibly put in ONE FC to try to take that belt off him.
Well, it's just kind of like what's his name? That's also in ONE FC.
His brother?
Smaller. No,
Mikey?
Mikey. Like the two of them, who are you really going to put against them?
Yeah. In Nogi, it's...
Yeah.
I mean, Baby Shark. Baby Shark's the one I want to see.
Maybe we put
Isaac Michelle's going against Ty coming up. That'll be a fun match.
Why don't we put Cade and
Mikey
together?
I feel like that's an unfair size advantage.
I don't know, man. I don't know about
I would
that.
watch a super fight with that. That'd be amazing. Mikey's gone up to heavyweight before. He's fought Sif and Muhammad Ali before. But regardless, it was astonishingly impressive performance from Ty. Go back and watch the match, find the match. That transition that Ty made from the Darce to the crucifix, and they have an overhead cam for it, is one of the wildest transitions I've seen in a very, very long time. And we're talking about Barry Yoshida today too, so that puts it into perspective. Let's really quickly go through karate combats, pit submission series. It was their first card. We have 3 big matchups on the card. It right now is not available for replay except for the Helena Cravar versus Murdoch match.
Yeah, the other matches are going to be released soon. I think it's just time delayed. If you watched it live, you could have watched it on YouTube, but then they removed it, and I think what they're doing
I watched the karate combat. I was in Atlanta in the airport.
Yeah.
I watched the card, the fighting card live, but I had missed the grappling card because I was on a plane.
And I can find the karate combat card because that's still there on that Caffeine TV thing.
Yeah.
That also had car fighting. If you ever want to see people do jiu-jitsu.
The jiu-jitsu car fighting, that's on there as well. So
it's just something fun to watch.
Helena, you want to run through this one, and then we'll talk about the 2 other matches.
So you had Helena Cravar versus what's Murdoch's?
It's Caitlin, right?
Caitlin.
I think it's Caitlin Murdoch.
Okay.
You have Murdoch here, and I think it's Caitlin.
I didn't write down the first name. But you have Helena do what she normally does. She sits to an open guard. And Murdoch tries a double underpass. I think she tries this because people can kind of...
We've seen Cravar be less really, really aggressive. If you are super deep in a double underpass on her, she tends to not...
She wants full guard.
Yes.
She almost always wants full guard, and then she attacks from that full guard, like a high full guard. So you almost getting under her hips would be a good idea. I watched some people try to pick her up and kind of do stuff. The problem is when you pick her up, she just inverts under you.
Yep.
Which
is a great game plan, great way to deal with that.
Yeah. And I think that's why Murdoch, because Murdoch just kept on doing this double underpass, and Helena was getting like underhook, but like... And I thought it was kind of a good game because Murdoch was patient enough that she would try to pass and then she'd back out. And then she'd try to pass and then back out. And that's kind of how you have to do it because Helena's kind of waiting for you to push in. And when you overcommit in is when she starts moving.
Yeah. We've seen that in her ADCC matches. In pretty much all of her ADCC matches, that's what we've seen her doing and pushing forward with.
Yeah, and towards the end, Helena pulls full or grabs full guard, and that's when she goes to like rubber guard, and then she gets a dead orchard, which is both your arms inside of a triangle, and then she goes to an arm bar, and it's like that whole progression right there. Yeah, you can't. It's like
Cravar is very good about that. You get
sucked into it, and you're just done.
And Cravar can throw her hips up so high, and she's very, very strong in the core.
She's long freaking legs, like long legs.
Yeah.
She just turned 17 today. I think it was her birthday today.
Good for her.
Yep.
We've seen her against adult females for a while now, but
Yeah.
I'm excited to see the continuation of her career because she's looking really, really good. Also on this card, we had Wagner Hosha. Anything else on that matchup? We had Wagner Hosha taking on Luke Griffith. Wagner Hosha going down 20 years and going up 40 pounds. And I think was what his post was.
He took him down. He got some
I've seen some highlights of it, and it looked like Wagner was just active, and it looked like at the end Luke was disappointed, obviously, but I just haven't seen anything else but Wagner's highlights.
Yeah.
It looks like a fun match, though.
Yeah.
So when it comes out, be sure to find that match when it comes out, hopefully in the next couple of days. Also on this card, we had Max Jimenez versus Big Dan. I have not been able to find this at all. Apparently, it was a pretty dominant match for Max Jimenez, and he takes a decision over Big Dan. Somebody texted me that that's what they saw. If that is not the case, then be that as may. But those two matches will be out soon. I'm really, really curious about both of those because Big Dan, we've seen him develop. I'm curious to see how he deals with another big guy like Victor Hugo in Max Jimenez, and I'm curious in the same way that how will Luke Griffith going to ADCC, how did he kind of game plan against the veteran that is Wagner Hosha? So I'm curious kind of stylistically where those guys in their career, how they're dealing with those matchups. Again, 4 ADCC level folks in the same matchups, curious as how it's going to go. So that was Pit Submission Series. Seemed cool. It seemed like a giant party. Looked like a lot of fun.
Is that like somebody's? It was the guy that.
So Fight Circus does these too.
At somebody's house?
It's like a giant mansion somewhere. They do it in Thailand too.
Yeah.
And they have a big backyard.
Yeah.
They basically fighters walk out of the house, out of a sliding glass door into the ring.
I think that's pretty.
It's
sweet.
pretty wild. It looked exciting.
I mean, think about it. You just have to rent a house.
Get hella insurance that you're not getting your deposit back.
True.
So it was fun. Again, support grappling. Also on the 1FC card, Gary Tonin got a quick renegade choke from the back.
Yeah.
Because he's Gary Tonin and he was on the card. I'm curious to see if he's going to fight soon for the featherweight title or lightweight title in 1FC coming off this victory. He's really up there in the rankings. It wouldn't surprise me to see them give him another shot there in a fight or two.
Yeah.
So let's move on. Anything else before we get into the
Euros?
The Euros. So, IBJJF 2024 Euros. We are back in full swing. The first IBJJF major of the year. We are going to run through the men's. We're going to start men's, start women's divisions.
We're going to start
in
the order that it is, because if not, we'll mess it up.
So we have BJJ Heroes results here. They have much better formatting than the IBJJF or what Flo posted. So big thanks to BJJ. Big thanks. They don't care. They don't care we're here, but. BJJ Heroes, I like how they organize it. There's another organization. I love when we can just get results that have the 2 finals matches there.
Yeah.
BJJ Heroes does a great job. They have quarterfinals through semifinals.
Yeah.
We're just going to go through the finals matches because, again, it's 18 matches, and we already have other cards.
Oh, okay. I was like, how is he in quarterfinals and he's overweight and gets DQ'd? And then I realized, because that's all the men that they had in that bracket to begin with.
So, moving on to the finals for the men's roosterweight division, we had Thalison Soares defeating Jonatas Andrade. I can never say his name. Andrade. There's a word there. It's the same with the 1FC fighter, Fabricio. I can never say his last name properly. Thalison Soares wins that 5-0. This was a neat little sequence that he hit. He basically, Jonatas Andrade. Jonatas, give me his last name again.
Just say Jonas. It's Jonas.
Jonas, not Jonatas.
Just call him Jonas.
Jonas.
Like the Jonas Brothers.
At one point on an inversion, shoots what is essentially an inverted triangle.
You're on the wrong person. Thalison does that.
No, Thalison passes off of that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was reading your notes and it was confusing me. Okay.
Jonas basically goes to shoot an inverted triangle off his back, and Thalison is able to, in a really neat way, slide his head out and force the north-south on this inversion, and then settle the hips down, and eventually is able to get the points off. And it's a really neat sequence. He then almost doesn't score it, goes to a Kimura, but and he gets 2 additional points at the end of the match. But that was the neat sequence. So, quick thing. We got some feedback on the YouTube comments and some other places. We're going to change, or we're going to, in the next couple of months, starting on this show, going to look to change how we sort of recap some of these matches. I think we got some good feedback for some folks. Again, I always appreciate the comments, always appreciate the DMs. We're going to do a little less play-by-play for these matches, and we're going to try to go through and pick one or two of the most interesting sequences that we saw in these matches. If you want to watch the matches, there's great commentary. Brawler with Steam is on commentary. He is phenomenal. They can give you the play-by-play. I think it is more interesting to talk through the more single interesting sequences for the matches. So that is what we're going to try to do, to give better analysis of the matches. If you like the format, let us know. If you dislike the format, let us know. We really do appreciate the feedback. I see them, and we do always take it to heart, so I appreciate that. We're going to try the format out. Let us know what you think of it. So that was my kind of most interesting sequence of this match, was that pass off of the inverted triangle and the squaring of the hips to get back down to get the points. Thalison beats Jonas 5-0, uncontested, wins the European Championship. Moving on to the men's light feather division, we have Meyram Maquine defeating Anderson Duarte via essentially not a modified cut, just a regular ass bow and arrow from the back off of essentially one hiccup in a 50-50. The beginning of this match I loved, because the first 2 or 3 minutes of this are straight up international IJF judo. And you're seeing Anderson and Meyram doing the thing that I love to see, where you watch them take their outside hand and they guard the front side collar and they pull it across to prevent the same side collar grip that's used to set up throws. It's a thing you see a lot of judokas do that you very rarely see in jiu-jitsu, and I learned it 10 years ago when I used to train with more judokas back then. And you guard and you hide it, and essentially it makes that front grip really, really hard to get, and you're watching both of the guys do it. Both of the guys play from a super upright stance. You're seeing them throw essentially... It looks like a judo match. Aside from a couple of leg grabs in there for Mortagare, stubble legs, it looks like both guys having an IJF match, which was really neat, and I'm curious to see... We are seeing judo creep back into gi jiu-jitsu a lot more, even in no-gi. We're seeing guys like Fabricio Andre, Owen Livesey,
foot sweeps and that kind of
foot
stuff.
Sweeps, and also big turning throws off of the body lock. We're seeing a lot more outside foot sweeps as well that I'm blanking on the name of.
I don't know.
I'm really curious if we are going to see the kind of wrestling pendulum swing back a little bit, because guys are so good at the wrestling. If we're going to see a lot more counter throws come back into the game. But the first 3 minutes of this match looks like a judo match. And then at the end, Meyram basically out-techs from the 50-50. And then he does what I'm going to call, I know it as a towel pole pass, where basically you grab on the top end of the skirt of the gi, and then you grab the pants and you lift up directly. And it basically turns the person sideways and comes up, and then Meyram is able to take the back off of the sequence. I know it as a towel pull, because it looks like you're yanking a towel or a tablecloth pull.
I didn't have a name for that.
That's what I learned that as a tablecloth pass.
Well, but that makes sense, because it's your wife once told me that for deadlifts. No, maybe not deadlifts. I forget what lift it was, but she said it's like pulling up the bed sheets. And I was and when she said
she has some great analogy for weightlifting.
I was like, holy shit, it is like pulling up the bed. I think it was cleans.
Her years of powerlifting have done her well when she tries to teach me how to lift, and she's like, dude, I'm like, oh, that's a good analogy for that.
Yeah.
So
I could see that being.
Meyram hits a bow and arrow choke off of that. The whole sequence is very, very quick. And I love that in this sequence, Meyram pulls him back into bounds before he hits the sequence so that he doesn't get reset. It was just really thoughtful, really fun match. And it kind of kicks off a bunch of fun matches for the men's division.
And in 50-50, that is one thing that you forget in gi, is that if you aren't in the correct position, then you kind of set up the bow and arrow. Because you're kind of right there, and everything is right there for him.
And that turn, and then he's just able to be able to chase the back and get right there. It was a neat sequence. Again, we didn't see a ton of chokes in the final or finishes in the final, so it was cool. Next match, we had the men's featherweight match. We had Kennedy Maciel Cobrinha Jr. defeating Alex Sodre, 2 points to 2 points, 2 advantages to 1 advantage. Let's see.
It's Kennedy. Kennedy looked really good. I know that he he wasn't on the scene for a little bit. He kind of disappeared.
I think he had
bit.
an injury or something.
Yeah,
and then
I think it was an injury.
He's come back with a force.
Yeah, and we have seen him, and he looked really dominant.
Go back and look at the match of Gabriel Souza on Aiga.
Yeah.
Like, he kind of runs through Gabriel Souza, we know, is top level, and he kind of runs through Gabriel Souza.
Yeah.
Alex Sodrick kept him really close in this match.
Oh, this was the wrestle up thing.
Mm-hmm.
Where I was afraid he was going to do the wrestle up takedown thing and not do anything. The wrestle up
and kind of
takedown-
hold.
Well, no, the wrestle up takedown rule in IBJJF, where like if you wrestle up and then take someone down, you don't get any points for it.
Yeah, because it's a standing sweep. If they're not up for 3 seconds. Yeah, it's a really weird. I want to go and find the provision again where the IBJJF explains that, because Andre Galvao years ago had a video specifically explaining that, where we talk about the rule a lot.
Well, only
it
because
didn't come into play here.
But that was what I was afraid was going to happen.
This was
because
Kennedy
he had to
selling for the footlock most of the match. There was an interesting point scoring sequence here in that they gave Kennedy the points from the single leg X sweep to the top when he was facing the other direction. So essentially, I'll try to explain it if you didn't see the match.
So you're saying he was in reverse guard rather than...
No, he was in the guard. But he was in reverse guard essentially, but he had the footlock like he's going to belly down and away with it.
Yeah.
But instead of like posting down, he was up all the way. So he was sitting on his knees with the footlock.
Oh, okay.
And he was the top player.
But he was facing away.
And I don't know if I've ever seen that scored before as a come up. Because he goes from being on his shoulder to being on his hand to basically getting up.
I think as long as you're up, it doesn't matter what direction.
Yeah, and that's what I realized. Like, they score. I mean, obviously, for the most part, the IBJJF refereeing has gotten very, very good.
And for these majors, there's 2 refs sitting on the thing. There's one in the middle, and then he has an earpiece, kind of like some kind of security guard.
Yeah.
And they're all talking to each other. So it's not like you're going to get really...
We do see it, and we have seen it many times in the past, but usually for the point scoring, if you're Brazilian, it's not an issue. So it was just really interesting.
Yeah.
I hadn't noticed that was a legal, established way to come up and score. Again, if anyone would know it, it'd be Cobrinha and it'd be Kennedy Jr.
I think as long as your back is on the mat, and then your partner's back hits the mat, and you get to a standing or like
he was a kneeling upright position.
Then that's a sweep. Period. It doesn't matter which direction you go from that position.
It was really interesting because I'm trying to think of another time where I've seen that, and usually you always want to turn in and square up.
Because in when you do knee on belly, you have to be facing them.
In IBJJF,
In IBJJF, you can't do it the opposite direction.
You can't do reverse knee on belly. You can't have any other configuration of your positioning. But for the top player, for the guard, for the sweep, they scored it. And it was just a really interesting thing that I don't recall having ever seen that scored before. Okay. But I also don't ever recall somebody sitting in that spot long enough actually fully upright.
Yeah.
So it was an interesting nuance to the position. They go back and forth. Kennedy essentially gets it on footlock attempts.
Yeah.
Because he's just selling out. And if you look at the positioning of his arm and hand, he is not going to get the footlock.
No, but he sells it.
Like he's making the face and he's selling it, and that's what IBJJF is looking for. And so, like, he's on the calf.
And Sadre has to escape it.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing. Like,
so just got to defend
making
the
somebody defend and escape and have to escape gives you the advantage.
Pretty much. Yeah. And the advantages for footlocks on IBJJF are like, they are inconsistent, but they've gotten better over the years. But Kennedy takes it on that. I just thought that was an interesting little nuance that he scored in the reverse with the footlock. Men's lightweight, we have Elijah Dorsey defeating Espen Mathisen. 2 advantages to 0.
I may have been screaming at my TV during this match because it was annoying me so much.
This is a classic up on ads and gonna wait, which again in the IBJJF, that is a viable strategy. That is how you win majors. That is how you win world championships when the margins are tight.
There are entire teams that have a history of doing this.
AOJ, TLI,
wink.
Those guys know how to get up and then keep their advantage and ride it to a victory. And that's what Elijah does here.
And Espen did play the same game that he played versus
Bruno
Pablo.
Lima.
No.
Pablo Laviselli?
Yeah, because he was against Pablo Laviselli last week. At what was that?
It was ADXC too.
Yeah.
Yep.
So Elijah gets 2.
He gets 2 advantages early, and
then he runs.
He doesn't run. He sits in the split guard pass for the last 5 minutes of the match.
He does enough so he doesn't get called for stalling.
Yeah.
But not enough to actually pass.
Yeah. I wish I had more kind of technical
No, but you can watch it. You
Yeah.
can watch it, and you know what's happening as you watch it.
He is doing enough though. Like
Yeah.
to
He
his
is.
credit, he is
And
playing
it's the
within the
same-
rules.
And it's the same game as some of those young wrestlers that were at ADCC at trials, where like
I mean, Dorian Alvarez
Yeah.
is a
Are you
prime
really-
example of like
yeah.
he's
Are
doing
you
enough
really-
there in front of you,
Yeah.
but he's not really progressing.
he's not really
most of the
giving
time.
you, and he's not giving you anything, so you
Yes.
can't actually get anything.
It is the Jonathan Alves game
Yeah.
of winning world championships. Like, hey man,
Yeah.
I'm gonna score, and then I think Jake Watson said it best. He
Yeah.
goes, "Yeah, we're gonna play ball, and then as soon as I have the ball, I'm gonna pop the ball, and there's no more ball, and the
Yeah.
game's over."
Yeah,
It's like
exactly.
I've just won
Yeah.
this, and it doesn't matter how much time is left. Like I have put the ball in my court, and we're not gonna move from
Yeah.
that. And he beautifully prevents the sweep, prevents any ads from Espen, and is able to take this on 2 ads.
Yep.
We're on to the men's middleweight division. I got so many texts about this match
Really?
as it was happening, after it was happening. We have Micael Galvao versus Andy Murasaki, and surprisingly, Micael Galvao was down early in
know.
this match, and everyone was like, "Ooh, he's down." And then Micael
Yeah, he
Galvao,
doesn't give a shit.
Micael Galvao
doesn't
showed
care.
us that he doesn't give a shit and hits an inverted choi bar from the bottom
Yeah.
and gets Andy Murasaki with an armbar. Man, that was the sequence that Micael Galvao hits is interesting. I want to talk about Andy Murasaki's sweep first.
Yeah.
Because it is also a really good sweep. It's also a sweep that I use a lot. I think it's very good. It's essentially a modified X-guard sweep. So Andy Murasaki is playing like a low X-guard where he has Micael Galvao's leg on his shoulder.
Yeah.
And Micael Galvao is checked down. So his knee and his shin are down for the leg that is not on Andy
Yeah.
Murasaki. Andy Murasaki goes to lift this leg, and essentially you can run the person over.
Yeah.
But normally Micael Galvao is very good, and so he will pop up off his leg and stand, and so you can't run him over, and he will pass you and do other stuff here. Andy Murasaki is able to essentially kick out Micael Galvao's shin leg that's not on his body,
Yeah.
so it dropped Micael Galvao's hips, and he can't pop up off of it, and that's how Andy Murasaki is able to get to the top.
Yeah.
If I ever sweep someone who is much better than me, this is the sweep that I'm able to do it with. Almost
Sweet.
universally. It is a very, very good sweep because the person on the top, in this case Micael Galvao, is doing everything he's supposed to do. He's in a position to counter the next thing.
Yeah.
But if you are able to time and push them forward and kick them back, kick the other leg back, it drops their hips down and they can't tack up off of the falling hip.
Yeah.
And they're stuck with essentially a gravity problem. And Murasaki's able to get up. And then he stalls on top of Mika.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, Mika's super dangerous. I am going to just pressure in really heavy to him.
Yeah.
And he's pressuring. He's like in a really, really tight close guard.
Yeah.
And he's getting a penalty. And then he goes, okay, if I get another penalty, like Micael Galvao is going to make something happen, and that's not good. So on my terms, I'm going to tack out of the guard.
Yeah.
And I'm going to look to outside pass. And then he does that. And Micael Galvao seemingly takes offense and hits an inverted modified choi bar
But
off of this.
Isn't this a whole sequence of doesn't he go after the legs and then goes after the arm? Because I want to say
a little bit.
I want to say he almost does the, you attack lower body then upper body then lower.
Right.
You know, like you go.
He
back
goes
and
for like
forth.
a low angle sweep
Yeah.
on Andy and kind of checks Andy's legs back down.
Yeah, and then he kind of jumps the.
Mhm. And then he comes up, and then he's able to get his leg out. And the leg positioning for how, again, a Troy bar is not a thing that I'm very proficient at. So whenever I see it, it looks like wizardry to me.
Yeah.
Probably because of my back injury. Like it's not a motion I can do anymore really that well.
I can only get him if somebody's really aggressively pushing into me.
Which is
Like if you're
kind of what
yeah,
Andy
if you-
Murasaki
if
is
you-
doing here.
If you do if they come into you really hard and
Mm-hmm.
you don't and you have a lot of hip movement, all you got to do is chuck your hips up
Yeah.
and you kind of find it. Like
and that's
it's
kind
right
of what
there.
it looks like Mika does here. We know
Nah, he
Mika
does a
has
lot
really,
fancier than I do it.
Yeah.
I just plop on top of him.
Yep. I love my own notes. In the last note I have, essentially when Andy stood up, that's when the
Yeah.
sequence starts. And then good luck everyone at middle, your boy coming. Micael Galvao's back. He's off suspension for IBJJF.
Hopefully he doesn't pop again.
Hopefully it doesn't pop again.
Hopefully he's smart enough not to do that.
Hopefully, we can hope. And then he'll hopefully be not out for that long. But I want to see this dude compete as much as possible. I think the craziest thing is he submitted everyone in his entire bracket.
He did.
From before the quarters to the finals, he submitted everyone. Like, we know he's good. Man, every time we see him, he is like Tynan Dalport levels of impressive, where you're just like, you're on that next plane. Like Cade,
and that's
him,
the next,
like those
Micah
guys, man.
and Tynan.
I want to see it so bad.
Well, we've seen it before, but we'll see it again.
At black belt.
Yeah.
We haven't seen the black belt yet.
No.
Moving on to male medium heavy. I fucking hate closeouts. We have.
I didn't think they were allowed to do them anymore.
You are, but you forfeit your points and you forfeit any money. But because this is an amateur tournament, there is no money for Euros. So if guys want to close out, they can. IBJJF has done some work to prevent closeouts. Again, if guys want to close out, it is a combat sport.
Yeah.
It is within the rules you're allowed to do that. I really like ADCC's rule, which is, hey, we don't do that here.
Yeah.
You got to fight. And so they close out, and no one wins. Yeah, well, I forget who wins. I think Wellington Luis and Orlando Montero are in the semifinals.
It's Wellington Luis defeats
Orlando. No, that's the semifinals. Oh. Yeah, it's a closeout in medium heavy. Yeah. Moving on. Mayo, they didn't fight. Like, there's no match to talk about. Male heavyweight, we have the match I was so excited for. We have the rematch of Adam Wardzinski versus Felipe Andrew. Yeah. So, if you don't know the history of this match, Felipe won Europeans last year. Yeah. Over Adam Wardzinski. Yeah. And then this last match, Adam Wardzinski had comeback of the year over Felipe Andrew at the Pans.
Pans, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then we was like, well, we're going to see it again. And historically, Felipe Andrew has had Adam Wardzinski's number. Yeah. Like, historically, the matches usually go to Felipe Andrew. And so Adam Wardzinski getting this last one back at Pans was like, ooh, and he took it in impressive fashion after being down like 9 or 11 points. Adam Wardzinski might have finally figured it out. Yeah. He might have finally figured out what he needs to do to beat Felipe Andrew.
He also does the same exact thing in this match. Not same exact
thing
he does in this match that he did at Pans.
I love Adam Wardzinski's game. I'm going to non sequitur. We're going to talk about most of the match here because it was wild. Adam Wardzinski, very early in the match, Felipe Andrew almost gets a pass. Wardzinski goes to Octopus Guard.
Did you know that Adam Wardzinski did play Jesus for Halloween?
I did. He's funny. He's got super long hair now.
Yeah, he likes metal shows.
He's all tattooed up metal. He loves. Adam Wardzinski is awesome. He's the butterfly guard player of yesteryear. This is the definition of a jiu-jitsu like chess match. These guys have had so many matches against each other that have gone like so similar, and they both play a really, really specific game. Like both of these guys aren't. They're very rote in the way that they play. Yeah. Like, they have specific games, like Cade and Mika, like, they're organic in their fighting.
Yeah, and it's not that they... So I get...
Being rote is not a bad thing.
Yeah, I get on people sometimes at lower levels, like blue belt, purple belt, when they have, like, one thing they do really well, and then all the rest of their jiu-jitsu is trash. Because I feel like those people generally win a lot because they have a game that works very well for them, but if you get them outside of that game, they fall apart. And this isn't this situation with these gentlemen. It's just they know how to rope you back into it. So like, he knows how to do everything else, but he's just going to put you
his competition game is going to put you in the spot. He's going to put you back into that spot. Yes.
And even if you try to get out of it, somehow you just wind up back in it. And
they both play that game, and so it is. And because they have so much experience against each other, you're watching like 3rd and 4th and 5th level counters. Where at one point, this is just an example. You see Adam Wardzinski bump Felipe Andrew close to him. Felipe Andrew changes the grip. Adam Wardzinski goes to make an angle to loop under his leg to go to single leg X. Felipe Andrew steps back. And then when he goes to step back, Felipe Andrew reaches down and grabs Adam Wardzinski's sleeve because he knows that the hand is going to be there to grab his leg. Yeah. And Adam Wardzinski regrips and grabs Felipe Andrew's sleeve to prevent him from being pulled up. Yeah. And it's like this this wild, like, this, all these counters at the same time, because both guys know exactly where the other guy wants to be.
And Lucas Lecce does a really good job. You can hear him in this entire match screaming at him. Like, and he does a very good job with all of his competitors of, like, knowing how to game the other person.
Yes.
Like, I feel like he definitely sits and watches people and knows, because, like, what is the other gentleman that he was against? He went against his teammate at
it's gonna kill me. Adam Wardzinski.
Checkmate.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he went against him. They went against each other, which definitely was them probably being not as active as they normally are, only because they were, in a championship match and the other guy's game.
Right.
I can't think of who that was, but anyway, it was recently. But with that being said,
there's one really interesting sequence here that kind of lets Adam Wardzinski start playing this game, and he's able to bump Felipe Andrew close enough to him that Felipe Andrew is forced to basically take a big overhand grip over top of Adam Wardzinski's shoulder and begin to, normally what you would do is you would do like a flop pass or you would do a fold pass or something over the leg. But because Adam Wardzinski plays butterfly guard, and I was looking at this match, Adam Wardzinski will play butterfly guard from a range that most people do not dare to play butterfly guard versus a standing opponent. And instead of transitioning to like X or single leg X or like a De La Riva variation, which he will still do, he will play his hooks in much longer than most people are comfortable with. And so because he has his far side leg up, when he bumps Felipe Andrew forward, Felipe Andrew knows that he can't flop pass because that hook is in, and the hook will take him over. So he has to square with Adam Wardzinski. Adam Wardzinski uses the grip that Felipe Andrew has because now his head is low to counter grip over top of Felipe Andrew's back and grab the belt grip on Felipe Andrew. Now Felipe Andrew's head is stuck close to Adam Wardzinski. His head is over his knees, and Adam Wardzinski has his butterfly guard grip in.
Yeah.
Felipe Andrew cuts to the side now in an attempt to kind of float pass, but Adam Wardzinski changes the angle and is able to hit essentially a single leg butterfly guard sweep over with that belt grip finally, with the leverage that he needs to both keep Felipe Andrew down and lift him over by the belt grip in order to get the sweep to get him over.
Elder Cruz.
Elder Cruz. Yep.
Yeah.
Adam Wardzinski, Elder Cruz.
Yeah.
So that whole sequence happens, and then Adam Wardzinski immediately... then it looks like the Pans match.
Yeah.
It is the exact same sequence where Adam Wardzinski, except he had a couple more minutes to work here.
Yeah, he does.
Versus in the Pans match, he did it all in the last, 90 seconds. Really in the last, 30 seconds.
Like, he literally did it so fast that he almost didn't get points for everything.
Yes.
Like, it was one of those fast ones where here he has more time on top. He starts to work the elbows up.
Yeah.
Above
he
his
camps
head.
and mount and keeps Felipe Andrews both arms up as high
as long
he
as you can, as long as you're working to do that, and then you're like playing with their collars, what are they going to call you for? They can't.
Also in mount, you're not in IBJJF. You're not going to get called for stalling
true.
in mount. And so, but he is working, and I appreciate that. But he's in mount, and he holds there for 3 minutes in the match, and he takes the match 9-0. It is wild to watch their sequence of matches over the years, because again, I'm a big fan of Adam Wardzinski as a guy that plays a game that I'm looking to emulate.
Yeah.
And so I've watched him over the years since he was a brown belt. Watching him run into Felipe Andrew repeatedly and kind of struggle, it is neat to see him find a repeatable and extremely repeatable sequence in back-to-back matchups that he's able to make work. And I'm very curious to see how Felipe Andrew will counter this new development.
I wish I had longer legs.
Yeah.
I can't do what he does because my legs are not long.
He's got a frame for it.
Yeah.
So that was a cool match. Adam Wardzinski takes another European title. I think this is his second European title at black belt. Might be his third, but I think it's his second. Moving on to anything else on that? I kind of took that over.
Nope.
Moving on to men's super heavy. This is not a typo. Erich Munis defeats Anderson Cayuna 26-0.
Yeah, he played the game that I learned this horrible thing, I think at blue belt in IBJJF, where I kept on grabbing half guard on somebody and they would pass, and then I'd grab it and then they would pass me. He kind of does that.
But he does it in a more full sequence. So Erich Munis, from the jump, we see him do this a lot. This is something, if you're competing against Erich Munis, he's going to try to do, because he does it almost in every finals match I can remember. He tries for it at least. He usually hits it. He pulls he goes double leg wrap on his legs, and he tilt sweeps you over, but he's using the momentum of the pull and being a very large gentleman to take you over. Kind of like they called it on the broadcast a scissor style sweep.
Yeah.
That's sort of what it is. And in my notes, he just racks up points.
Yeah.
He hits the sweep, then he will go to pass, then he will go to mount, and then he will kind of do something, and then he will kind of seemingly let himself get reversed back to guard.
Yeah.
And then hit the sequence again.
Yeah.
And he runs through the sequence twice or 3 times almost.
Yeah.
At one point, he has an armbar, what looks to be a pretty tight armbar on Anderson. And it seemingly looks like he just sort of decides to not commit to it and let himself come back into the guard. And even Braulio Estima on commentary kind of like you can hear Braulio kind of give him shit for it. Like, hey, he's really got to tighten up his submissions a little bit.
Yeah.
I think is the term he says.
says that, and then he says there's another match after it where he goes, "Oh no, so it was this match, and then after this match was the ladies' final with
heavyweight
Pessanha."
Yeah, Gabrieli Pessanha.
And he goes, and after Pessanha hits the armbar, he goes, and if Erich Munis would have done what Gabrieli Pessanha did with her foot tightening up the armbar, he wouldn't have lost it or something like that. And I'm
it's
like,
a very similar sequence.
Yeah.
But it was just again, he wins 26-0. It is an astonishingly dominant victory from bell to bell.
I was watching this match with my kid, and she was calling him the Soldier of Christ because that's what he had.
He has the big white
and
gi
she
with
was
the
like,
black letter on his shoulder.
she was like, why did Polish Jesus go and then the Soldier of Christ? And I was like, I don't know, Abby. Just how it is sometimes. So yeah,
you're
like, I have to remove that.
I don't. It's fine. Yeah, we're this deep in the show. It's not wrong. It was just interesting, and it works out really well. It's just most of the time, guys, when they are dominating in this fashion, they look to get the match over because guys can always pull out a Hail Mary and just like throw caution to the wind and submit you or like cause injury or change the match.
Sometimes there's also a little anger, like there's a little
put little points on the guy and show him you can do it.
Well, that or you don't know exactly what happens in the matches before. Like, every once in a while somebody puts up 26 points on somebody because they want to prove a point. Yeah. Like that one match. Remember that one match? The guy put up like 108 points on that one guy just to prove a point.
Yep.
That kind of shit.
Yeah, it happens occasionally.
Yeah.
I don't know if this was that, but it was weird because it seemed like Erich Munis was just kind of happy to run the sequence, and he seemed very comfortable, and he was really moving Anderson into his game effectively and scored 26 points. Really cool. Like, it's again, it looks exactly like Erich Munis's game. Really neat, long-range scissor sweeps with beautiful timing on the foot sweep, the way that he is able to get you over. Like, he off-balances really well with the lapels. He stretches you out. And then at the end of your range, he kind of flicks you over. Beautiful sweep. It was just very odd to see him essentially let go of the armbar.
Would Erich and Anderson Munis go against each other if they were in finals?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think we've had this question before, and I don't.
Okay.
I think they don't.
They're not like the Forgive Tolos who
who will fight for it, baby. They'll
will kill each other.
Go back. You want to see a brother match?
Yeah.
Go back and watch the world's brown belt match between the brothers. That was a hell of a match.
They try to kill each other in that match.
They would probably fight MMA against each other.
Well, remember they did that one video series on Flow.
Yeah.
And like they get in a fight in the hotel room for whatever reason.
And you can tell this is just par for the course.
Yeah.
This is just every day in the Tolo's life. So that was that match. Moving on to the men's ultra heavyweight final. This one was, I really enjoyed the show. I love the renaissance that Gutemberg Pereira has had over the last couple of years in his game.
Pereira. You said
Pereira.
Yeah, you said
Gutemberg Pereira. So Gutemberg Pereira defeats Yatan Bueno via one advantage, but he's doing stuff the whole time. As Josh would say, he is moving and grooving.
Well, and this was our first time seeing him with the new team.
Yeah, he's AOJ now.
He's AOJ
He's
now.
not GFT. He's been GFT for forever.
Yeah.
Like at least since Purple Belt, if not much longer.
Yeah, so I was curious exactly how that would change things, or if that would change things.
I don't think it's changed it yet.
Yeah.
But we see, again, Gutenberg playing the game that we've traditionally seen him play in the last couple of years.
This is the match that it was like one of the first men's matches that was played.
Yeah.
And this is the one where Gutenberg at one point like pulls guard and he like hurts his own rib pulling guard.
Well, okay, so they went down hard.
But I think he also did it to get a breather.
To get a break. A little bit. I couldn't tell either one.
He does it again. He does the same exact guard pull again in the match, and then in open class, he does the same exact guard pull. Which, I mean, if that's the way you pull guard, that's the way you pull guard. But I would think if you have a really fucked up rib, I don't know if
it is a slamming guard pull where he pulls, it almost looks like he knocks the wind out of himself, honestly, in this one when they stop the match.
Yeah.
He might notice he's in control the whole time. He plays a lot of the lumberjack sweep. And again, Pereira is such a long grappler.
Yeah.
Like, I cannot imagine how annoying it is to be able to, like, stabilize yourself as Gutenberg Pereira inverts under you with a single grip on your leg and looks to lumberjack sweep you over the top. Again, he's not going to do the roll over the neck and, like, the bolo there, the spin behind variation of this because, again, these guys are ultra heavyweights. But he gets up really high on it, and he's continually throwing the De La Riva, the lasso guard, the inside X guard. There is something interesting that I see Gutenberg Pereira do, and I'm kind of throwing this out to the people that are listening to the show. If you have a name for this, Gutenberg Pereira is playing a De La Riva, and then with the same side hand that he is playing De La Riva, he is reaching and grabbing a same side pant grip and lifting the pant up on that side. It is the thing that I do where I scoop under the foot in no-gi and I hold the foot when I'm playing De La Riva underneath. Is there a name for this kind of guard? Or is there a name for this position? Because Gutenberg Pereira is playing with the gi. You see it in the gi a lot.
Yeah.
Is there a name for it in no-gi when you are just holding the base of the foot or kind of at the heel instep area as you play De La Riva into like a waiter sweep almost inside? Yeah. So just a question. He's playing this here, and I wanted to throw it to the listener base to see if anyone had an answer for what they call that, or if there's anybody else that plays that I can look to, because Gutenberg Pereira is playing it in the gi. I'm just curious about no-gi.
You hold the footsie.
Yeah.
That's all I say. That's all I know.
But he's in control the whole time. He wins on one advantage. It's a very close match. Even though it is, one advantage, Pereira very clearly is in the driver's seat for all of the match. So moving on to the open class, we have Gutenberg Pereira again versus Pedro Machado.
Poor Pedro.
Dude.
He has the worst nickname ever. His nickname means little, like, meaningless little...
You text, it's like runt.
It's runt. It's meaningless little runt. And I was like, really? That's what you name that guy? That's what his nickname is? Yes.
Because usually, like, so if you don't know in jiu-jitsu... the Brazilian folks tend to typically give people nicknames that are pretty disparaging. Yeah. Like Bochecha means like chubby cheeks.
Chubby cheeks.
Shoeface means shoeface.
Yeah, it means shoeface. This guy's nickname is Rabico. And Rabico means it's like
it's disparaging.
It's disparaging.
Yeah,
and I looked it up,
and you texted me that. I was like, that's sad.
Well, because I thought it meant like rabbit, and I was like, he's like rabid, like Rabico. And then I looked it up, and I was like, no, Miranda, it does not mean that he's like a rabid animal. It means that he 1000% is like they're making fun of him as a child because he was a scrawny little child.
Yeah. Like, goddamn, Brazil, be better. I got to lead into the recap of the match now after this.
I'm sorry. These are the things I look at, and
Gutenberg Pereira hits a folding pass and just sort of melts Pedro Machado for like 30. He cooks him for 30 seconds. Gutenberg Pereira has the head down low in the guard. He has an overhook on Pedro Machado, and he is just folding his legs over to the side. And he is putting so much weight at Pedro Machado, being forced to kind of retain and hold either a half guard or a double-legged, like, lifting guard here, as Gutenberg Pereira just leans and levers into him. And again, like, they call it cooking the beans, but I know it's just like, I call it like melting someone. Like, you just lean on them and just like you wilt their ability to be able to hold you in that position long term.
It might mean, so there's two things. Either means raccoon or a worthless little runt.
Yeah.
So
I hope it means raccoon.
I hope it means raccoon, and then he just has like raccoon eyes because he's like
Pedro Machado.
Yeah. Anyway.
So Gutenberg Pereira does this. Eventually, so this was there's an interesting sequence here for scoring.
Okay.
That I liked. And Pereira, he's eventually able to pass because he kind of like wilts Pedro Machado on that same side. Yeah. He passes over, and then he is in the process of settling Pedro Machado's shoulders down because he's now on the opposite side of his legs. So he's passed. He is passed for about 5.5 seconds. Pedro Machado fights the shoulders being up for about 3 seconds, and at the 2.5 second mark, when he's flat.
How did you count 2.5 seconds?
I watched. I counted. I went, but I did the
Okay,
clock.
okay.
Yeah, I counted. Gutemberg Pereira steps back over into technically the guard.
Yeah.
And Braulio Estima goes, that should be points. And I was like, yeah, bro, that should be, because Braulio Estima is a very good commentator.
Yeah.
Has, Brandon and I were talking on the pre-show, has eyes for the game that are the best in the sport.
Yeah, he tells you some weird
It
stuff.
is
And
wild
it's crazy.
what he can see.
Yeah, it's like, are you watching this match like ahead of us? Like, is there a delay that we don't know about?
Dude.
Because you know some shit that happens before it happens. And I don't even
He's
know how
so
you do
far
that.
ahead. He is one of the few commentators that I watch and go like, oh, we're doing different things. Like, you just have an understanding of this game that is so far beyond any other commentator that we have the pleasure of hearing about. Majority in the gi. It's wild. And so when Braulio makes a comment like that, I went back and checked, and it's like, it looks like he doesn't get. So in ADCC, this wouldn't score because Gutenberg Pereira doesn't have his shoulders locked down, and then he steps back over. But man, it is the closest non-scoring sequence you can have. Like, had Gutenberg Pereira waited another literally half second in that position, I think he would have scored. It doesn't really make a difference because he's able to hit this same pass in reality 2 separate times throughout the match, and that is the whole match. It's 6-0. It is weird though, and another weirdness of the match, there is a penalty assigned and then waved back.
Yeah, I saw
and the
that.
0 for the penalty never goes away, and it's just something that comes up in smooth comp really, really rarely. It's not smooth comp, it's flow software, which I don't like. Is that the software, it's essentially a software bug that once the penalty comes up on screen, that overlay is what you can see now.
Yeah, and
so it doesn't go back to just showing the advantages. And it's a funny little bug that almost never comes up, but it comes back when they have waved back a penalty.
Yeah.
You'll have the 0 for a penalty there instead of just no penalty. So it's interesting. Martin, anything else on the match?
Nope. That's it.
That's the match. Let's move on to the women's divisions, which really annoyed me that there was no commentary for all of them except for 2 matches.
Yeah, I think it was
Goddamn.
I think it was a mistake, only because they show Estima's name up on the screen, and the other gentleman that was doing commentary, they show the names before this match begins, and then you just don't get it.
Yeah. So we had most of the women's matches with no commentary, which pisses me off because
which at one point is a problem because we have no idea what happened.
Literally, BJJ Heroes in the BJJ Heroes results go, I don't know why there was a DQ here.
So
So yeah, that annoyed me. Just like, come on, guys, we're trying to champion for women's jiu-jitsu. At least have the dignity to give them commentary on a major level broadcast. So that really irked me.
Ooh,
but
I like how
regardless.
now we're calling it the Peter Frank armbar,
Yeah.
because it is.
Mm-hmm.
He hit some amazing armbars this time.
Moving on to Roosterweight, we had Shelby Murphey defeating Juliana Giraud via
Points.
Yeah, 2-3. I deleted the points there accidentally. Shelby hits a really nice low knee cut pass of a post, and then do you want us to talk about this or no?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Julia hits what is essentially a weird wrestle up, but she does the thing in the wrestle up
where she throws her leg up for the armbar.
Yeah, like you're going to go for the armbar or the back take.
Yeah.
And it's one of those, you basically force your opponent into doing 3 things. Like, okay, A, I fight this armbar that might be there that is kind of in position. If she really throws for it hard, I have to defend it. They're probably not going to get it, but I might have to defend it.
Yeah.
B, if I don't take the sweep and take getting swept here, they can take my back.
Yeah.
And so almost always what you have happen in this weird wrestle up where they get their leg over your shoulder is you have someone immediately fall to their back and go, okay, I will give you the sweep to avoid you taking my back in the sequence. And that's what we see here. It's something we don't see commonly, but we call it the Peter Frank armbar, which is basically, it's a specific type of flying armbar that Peter Frank does.
He did it all weekend.
And you texted me, because he's in Masters now.
Yeah, he's in Masters now, and he hit all kinds of weird ones too. Like, he hits them from positions I don't even understand.
He's a very, very good at flying armbar. He's a guy that you see in your division, you're just like, nah, I'll enjoy Paris for the weekend.
He's also very showboaty, but like
Yes.
but not in a disrespectful way.
In a having a good time,
Yeah.
putting on putting on a show
yeah.
kind
And
of way.
sometimes that is a problem. Sometimes he definitely eats some things because
bit.
he does that and they just go after him.
Yeah.
But he seems like he's always having a good time.
Yeah. So Shelby Murphey takes that via the pass. Again, very nice pass. It was a nice back and forth sequence. Again, 3-2 score there. Moving on to the female light featherweight division, we had a big upset here. We had Jessica Coraline defeating Maisa Bastos 2-0.
Yeah.
I think everyone picked Maisa Bastos to win this.
Back on up at the roosterweight, the chick that lost. She was the one that Erich Munis he
proposed to
after the match.
Really?
Didn't you see that?
No.
After that match, he comes on and I was like, it's kind of weird that you're proposing to the chick that lost, but he proposes to her and she says yes.
Hell yeah.
Yeah,
Good
just
for
a
them.
cute little Euros.
Jiu-jitsu marriages.
Yeah.
They're great as someone who's in one. They're great. Big fan. I've lost my train of thought now. Oh yeah.
Light
featherweight. Jessica Coraline defeats Maisa Bastos 2-0. This was really, really impressive from Jessica Caroline because they double pull, as they do at light featherweight, and Maisa Bastos comes up for the advantage. I was like, okay, that makes sense. We've seen Bastos play from the top. She frequently will decide to be the one that comes up. It's nothing new here. And then Jessica Caroline does a really interesting thing where she takes her lapel on the outside and she feeds it under and she traps Maisa Bastos' leg with a lapel. And then she hits what I can really only describe as like kind of a bump sweep over, and Maisa Bastos goes to check that leg out like you would to stop. It's a very easy sweep to stop from that position when you're on top of someone. But because the lapel is there, she can't check the leg out. And so she just has to accept the guard. And it's like, okay, well, and it's this weird like no frills sweep because normally there's a scramble here that happens. There's inverted play.
Yeah, but Bastos doesn't care because Bastos likes to be on the bottom.
Right. Yeah. And so you saw Bastos get her leg trapped and kind of go, that's annoying, flatten back, and then start playing her guard. And then you see Jessica Caroline go, nah, man, I'm up by 2 points.
Yeah.
I'm going to win.
Yeah.
And as the match goes on, Maisa Bastos throws more and more and more and more and more like the kitchen sink at Jessica Caroline, trying to get a sub, trying to get back, trying to get an omoplata sweep, trying to get an arm bar, all of these things. And she could only rack up ads because Jessica Caroline just refuses to get swept. Refuses to have any of it work and get subbed. And it was a really, really impressive performance where it's like you took a 1-2 points you got early in the match, and then you weathered the storm of Maisa Bastos trying to get it back, but all you had to do is play defensively and not get swept.
I like how we like this match, but when TLI does it, we get angry.
Because Espen Matissa wants to play guard.
Yeah.
Maisa Bastos wants to sub. It's from an interesting perspective, it's much more interesting to watch Maisa Bastos throw the kitchen sink with subs and stuff versus
Espen.
It was
more
more
because
interesting.
Espen was trying to take the back, and that was the problem. That's the difference in the two.
Maisa Bastos
games.
was trying to take it home. So, yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was again, I love seeing upsets, especially because this is a huge reason of why we do the show is because of the upsets. And so Jessica Caroline takes it home over Maisa Bastos for the light featherweight division. Moving on to the featherweights, we had Margot Ciccarelli defeating Gabrieli Pessanha 2 points to 2 points, 2-1 advantages. Ciccarelli hits a half bolo come up to the top using the butt grip, and Gabrielle wrestles up, and that is it's a 2-2, and then Ciccarelli is able to hit essentially small ads and penalties.
Yep.
And that's there's not
a lot.
There's not a whole lot more on that match. A very close match. Cool to see Margaret take.
Well, and then Margot in quarterfinals had a bow and arrow, and then she had a Tarika Plata. So it's not like in the other matches she was getting a lot more movement, a lot more activity. But that's the difference between going against someone who
earlier versus like finals when it's like, we've all killed everyone in our bracket to get to this moment. We're both very, very good. And so occasionally you get those kind of, again.
And Gabriella is good because she, look, in semifinals she beat Victoria Assis, who she's I mean, she's a newer black belt, but like she was executing people
Oh yeah.
in the colored belts.
Mm-hmm.
Like bad. I was watching some of her matches. She was vicious. Anyway.
So those are for anything else on that?
Nope, that's it.
Let's move on to the female lightweight division. We had Julia Alves defeating Vitor Vieira, 2 advantages to 0. The advantages come in the first 30 seconds and minute of the match.
Yeah.
It's essentially like one of the opening sequences. It's like you can watch the first minute of the match, and that is functionally the match. It's essentially a near armbar back take bow and arrow combo that Victoria has to stand up completely out of to reset. And then Julia Alves has 2 advantages, and then it is 9 minutes of Victoria trying to pass the guard from double unders. And in other variations too.
Yep.
But it's again what we talked about. If you score early, you can win. Like whether it's our favorite or not our favorite in the rule set, that's what you have to do.
Didn't they have a big study that said if you score first in IBJJF, you win?
We have cited this big study that I can never find for years and years and years.
Okay, I will find that for our next.
I think it's like 90%. If you score first, you win the match.
I will find it.
But again, usually if you score first, you are the one that scores it all.
Yeah.
But typically the one that is scoring first is the one that wins.
I think it was also told to me because that made me actually want to wrestle. Because they were like, if you get the first 2 points, you win. I was like, okay, I got it.
Yeah,
I'm
again,
do that shit
but
now.
especially in the IBJJF when that's, there isn't, with ADCC ruling, if you are up, you are required to be the aggressor.
Yeah.
In IBJJF, it is solely based on position.
Yeah.
And so if you are up, you don't have an onus to necessarily be the aggressor if you're in a position where you're not required to be the aggressor.
Yeah.
So it's just different flavors to the rule set. Again, I never want to make it very clear as we talk about these. I never want to poo-poo the athletes for the way that they approach the match. Like you are approaching the match in the way you are looking to win in the rule set you are competing in. Whether or not it's the most exciting,
except for some people,
except for some
there's
folks.
some folks that I just
Folks, I don't like how they play the game. But again, go back and look at the kind of interview for ADCC versus
we're
Craig
haters,
Jones.
but whatever.
Yeah. The kind of interview for when he's talking about Craig Jones. He's like, "Hey man, I got to do what I got to do to win." And everyone kind of went. Everyone in the arena at ADCC went. I feel you, kind of. Yeah, I feel you, man. He won the entire crowd back, and I always point to that moment where it's like you can't hate the athletes for how they decide to play it because it's their career, and you got to do what you got to do to win. So moving on to the female middleweight division, when BJJ Heroes and their official results goes very odd DQ. I'm going to read it verbatim for them because they deserve it. Very odd DQ for no apparent reason. Inside 50-50 guard. What I think, and in my notes here, it says, but who the fuck knows? Thalyta Silva wins over Ingrid Alves, who gets DQ'd. I think they are calling this a reap, but I think it's technically Thalyta Silva in her movement that is the one that would cause the reap, but it's not even really a reap. It'd be a moment where it would be phenomenal to have a guy like Brawley Westima on commentary who is very knowledgeable of the rules.
But we had
no one can figure
No
out
one had
why.
commentary, and I had 2 of my friends texting me like, "What the hell just happened?" And I was like, "I don't know, man.
So I
don't know what to tell you."
I think they're calling it a legal reap position, and this is my speculation from watching it and freeze framing it and talking to Miranda about it. Is I think that the position that Ingrid Alves has Thalyta Silva's leg in this knee bar, she is not on the top side shoulder, she is on the lower side shoulder, and when she loops her underside leg up into the hip line, because the knee is now controlled and she is on the top side as opposed to underneath it, they are considering that a reap attacking the knee to the outside in the way that you are not allowed to attack the knee.
In all honesty, it was more hippie than it was knee.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It was almost like a saddle.
This is like
you're not, the legs are switched.
Right.
It's a saddle,
and
but
the
with
top side,
your legs.
the top side leg isn't under the other leg and isn't over. It's over top of the body, so it's not going to put pressure on the knee. But there's a whole rule in IBJJF where it is based on the hip location to your opponent's hip, essentially, is what determines if it's a reap and if you can control the leg or not. I think she gets caught out in essentially controlling the leg from this modified knee bar position in a way that is technically illegal, but I think if we have this much question and then the whole world has this question about it,
everybody
it's a dumb rule.
everybody was looking at each other,
Yeah.
and no one knew what was going on. And then I'm having people text me, and I'm like, I don't know, man. Like,
Yeah.
it wasn't like she was going after the foot, but like I thought maybe it was
That's
some
what I
kind
think it is.
of hip issue. Like the only other thing I could think of was that they were saying it was like cranky towards the hip, because the leg, all it is it's a knee bar when you fall off the side of it.
Yeah.
So you don't really get the knee bar anymore. But at
You can
the
get that
same
lateral
time,
knee bar, but she's not in the right position to
Yeah.
be able to get that.
She doesn't-
She's overhooked her
Yeah.
hands on top of the leg. So it's, regardless, we all agree that it is a dumb position, especially in a major final,
Yeah.
to be DQ'd for, because both the athletes like are kind of looking like, what is
I
going
don't know. The
on?
one chick's kind of like, whatever. She's
Yeah,
like, I won.
But that's, and I understand that too. But it's also, it is not immediately clear to anyone. And if that happens, that's an issue in your rules. If you're high level competitors and everyone else, like we watch a lot of jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
I watch a lot. We commentate a lot of jiu-jitsu. We're very entrenched in this. So not know why someone's being DQ'd in a major like this is bad practice. So move on from that. Female medium heavyweight division. We have the finals. We have I wish we had commentary here so I can get some names.
Aurelie
Le Vern defeating Sabitha Laius via 13-0. In the last minute, she scores 11 of those points.
Yep. She puts it on at the end.
Yeah. It's essentially an afterburner performance where it's like you just see Le Vern at the end just immediately go pass to mount to back, and then is hunting the armbar at the end. But it was a very, very close match at that point. I think Le Vern only had 2 points. Yeah. She only had 2 points going into that last minute.
Yeah, but it was like all of a sudden one little mistake was made, and then it was you just said Aurelie, just pick it up and go.
Aurelie, yeah.
I think it's Aurelie.
And you actually looked up where she's from.
Yeah, she's from French Guiana.
Or she runs a she runs the Six Blade Academy in French Guiana, which is a small country in South America.
Yeah.
For those who are not geographically inclined.
We were trying to figure out where she was from, just because we'd never seen her before. She had a really good game of jiu-jitsu, and I was like, where does this person come from? And so
we looked it up.
Sometimes that happens.
So yeah, again, the last minute of the match is wild because it's just you just watch the points get racked up, and it's. Again, this is one of the reasons we like watching the majors is because you get these really cool performances in these little sections of matches. So, moving on to the female heavyweight division, we have Melissa Cueto defeating Isildur Cristiana, and that is 4-4 points, 3-1 on advantages. Super, super close. It's essentially back and forth. It's two back and forth sweeps.
This is the sweep that we don't know what it's called.
Yes.
We need to...
Another name sweep.
Yeah.
Melissa hits the who does it? Isildur. She hits Isildur. It is the sweep where you have someone essentially standing both legs together in front of you.
Yeah.
And then you take both of your legs and you wrap and you basically put their legs in guard.
Yeah. But
and then,
low guard.
Low guard. And then you have their both sleeves.
Yeah.
And then you just knock them over.
Yeah.
It's not an ankle sweep. It's not a dummy sweep. It's not a double ankle sweep.
It's not like a treetop or
It's not a treetop. It's not a tilt sweep.
It's kind of like knocking a tree down.
It's almost like a tilt sweep.
Yeah.
But tilt sweep is from the knees or like a lever sweep. But I don't actually have a name for what this particular... It's a rare sweep. You don't see it very often.
It's not a dummy sweep.
It's not a Delahiva sweep because it's both legs are together and you're guarded in the legs. It's a really odd sweep. We see it rarely, and I realize I don't have a name for it.
No, but it's one of those sweeps when it happens to you, you're like, oh man.
Yeah, you just more. You're like, because you should be able to like step out of it, but it is a position that you get baited into, and you get caught out trying to outstep and pass the guard from standing.
It's normally somebody like Josh who would hit it on there and then giggle at you.
Yeah, someone walks you into it. Yeah, Josh would hit on you and just giggle at you.
Yeah.
He may or may not come up and just look at you and go, "Why'd you let me do that?" I'm like, "Josh, why?"
And then bait you to do it again.
Yeah. One of those sweeps. But yeah, it's a 50-50. Stricker hits a leg trap guard sweep and then knocks. I call it a leg trap guard sweep in the notes, but I want a name for it actually.
Yeah, we don't know. I'm not normally the gi correspondent.
Yeah, Zach is using those euros this year. Melissa takes it on advantages.
You know, you get that grip. You know the grip.
The pistol grip?
Grip.
So yeah, that was the match. Melissa Stricker Cueto takes that on 2 advantages, essentially. Very, very close match, back and forth. Moving on to the female super heavyweight division, we have Gabrieli Pessanha defeating Tiny Porfirio 9-0. It's essentially Gabby playing her guard game, which we know. And for Tiny Porfirio, Tiny really, for most of this match, wants to pass double unders, wants to pass low. But because of the way that Pessanha holds her legs up super high, Gabby can't step a leg down. She can't lift up and turn because
you're on the wrong match. You're talking about open weight.
Open weight is Thalyta Silva.
Yeah.
So Gabby Pessanha versus Tiny Porfirio is super heavyweight.
That's the one where she has her legs up in the air?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And
because the other match is 25 seconds long.
Okay. And Gabby's trying to pass the whole time.
Tiny Porfirio is trying to pass the whole time.
No, Gabby's trying to pass the whole time.
Absolutely not.
I thought it was Gabby trying to pass.
And at the end, Gabby scores all the points. No, it's Tiny Porfirio trying to pass low the whole time with the belt grip.
I'm off. I completely. It's
been a long week so far. It's Monday.
We just watched this match, so the fact that I can't remember who's who blows my mind. But anyway,
it was a slower paced match for the vast majority of the beginning of the match, and we were kind of curious. It's a problem we've seen a lot of people have with Pessanha is that you can't deadlift sweep her because in order to get her hips high enough, you have to bring your head low, and she's going to pull on your head, and she's going to scoot out, and so she's very, very hard. Pessanha has a very, very hard guard at super heavyweight to pass. That's why, again, she was one of the in the contenders for females of the year. Didn't lose last year, astonishingly hard to beat. And Tiny Porfirio was very good. We haven't seen her in the IBJJF in a little bit, but just didn't seem to have a good way to get around Pessanha's guard. And then once Pessanha got going, she was really able to rack the points up. So this is the final match. The female open class was Gabrieli Pessanha versus Thalyta Silva. Gabby is playing the guard, pretty slow-paced guard work, and then goes armbar time. Yeah, and hits a beautiful textbook what you want everyone to throw the flower sweep armbar from. Yeah. She just comes to the side, she throws her hips up, she blocks the arm, she pulls it across the center line, and then she armbars Thalyta Silva, and that's it. Yeah. It's just it is. If you were to show someone this is a flower sweep armbar at the highest level, this is probably the one you'd show them. It's just it's from closed guard. It's what you teach every white belt and you hope they can hit. Beautifully executed at the highest levels. So Gabrieli Pessanha hits that, and she is now the open weight champion for the 2024 IBJJF European Championships. I did have to think about it.
So my notes for some of the masters go down.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm making sure. Did we talk about the men's open weight too?
Yeah, we talked about it.
Okay, cool. Yeah, all right, just making sure. Miranda has a bunch of other matches that we watched as well.
I like random matches. No, it actually
we like certain grapplers.
I like certain people, and I watch certain people because I know you're going to get some good shit out of it.
Yes,
Josh Hinger, the fact that he has Masters 3.
It's unfair to everyone in Masters 3.
I wonder if you look at that bracket and you're just fuck, man.
Well, we saw somebody close out to him in open weight. It was a GB guy.
Yeah,
and we couldn't tell what was
Virginia
up. We couldn't tell why. Yeah. But again, that's what I would do. It's you see Josh Hinger, I'm I might close that match. Masters 1, Masters 2 adult, we'll go Josh Hinger. So, Masters 3, I'm I can go to Paris, France to fight Josh Hinger.
Yeah. So anyway, but Josh Hinger, he has an instructional that I watched because my gi takedowns, I have problems sometimes getting in on people. I feel with gi, you can hold me away from you, and then it
Euroblast double kind of lady.
Yeah, it shuts down everything that I actually want to do. So he had a whole instructional called Singles After 30 for the Masters competitors, and it's a sweep single. And he basically, it's a collar drag and sweep single combination. It's his instructional in Jiu-Jitsu X. He hits this takedown on almost every school match the entire day. Yeah. Over and over again.
And then he cut a promo on his Instagram of it's him hitting it, a section of the instructional. Him hitting it, it's a 30-second it's a 30-second video of him just hitting it interlaced with him showing how to do it.
Yeah, and I watched this instructional waiting for my car to get worked on a couple months ago, and it was amazing. And it's a really useful takedown because it's either going to plant you on your face or you're going to get your single. And normally The only guy that really beat him on it had some kind of wrestling pedigree where he kind of knew how to.
Oh, we don't have his name up here, do we?
No,
yeah, it was a
Johnson,
10-time
James Johnson Jr.
In his Instagram bio, he has 10-time
All-American.
And like that's a lot of All-Americans.
Yeah, he's from Alliance.
Alliance.
I had to say
Alliance?
that just to make you mad.
Yeah.
But Josh Hinger is a beast. I swear I saw him kill a man in one of the videos.
One of the matches, he hits this thing, immediately keeps the grip, takes the back, and hits like a modified zipper choke and puts the guy to sleep. And like, I think the match timer ends at 4:03.
Yeah.
And it's smashes 3, so it's a 5-minute match. So in 57 seconds, he takes down, gets the back, and chokes a man unconscious.
And it's like a third-degree black belt, so it wasn't
it's
like
it's a good black belt.
Yeah,
too.
it wasn't like
so.
It
It's
was,
like Josh Hinger's still out there doing it. And Masters, years ago, Masters 1, 2 used to be the joke. Now it's like, oh, cool. Now you have guys that are like world level guys 2 years ago. Like we have next match we'll talk about in Masters, Paul and Miao and Lucas Pinheiro.
So I messed it up. Is Zhao
Miao, yeah.
Yeah, I messed.
Like now you have those guys. You have Lovato. You have a bunch of former world champions and killers in the Masters bracket. And you're like, well, this isn't fair anymore.
Yeah.
Look, I've said it for years. They should do Masters by stripes when you get to black belt.
Well,
I'm not fighting an 8-3 black belt Masters 1.
Because then you have Megaton, who's like a...
And look, if Megaton wants to compete at adult, he can compete at adult.
He doesn't compete at adult. He competes at like Master 8 or whatever Master degree
But
is.
I'm saying, like, I don't have to compete against Megaton, where it's, oh, cool, you've been competing since 1996.
Watch.
Awesome.
Watch, you'll decide to do an IBJJF again. You'll go like Master like 2 or 3 by that time.
And Hanger will drop down.
And then all of a sudden you look at your division as like Megaton Diaz.
Megaton Diaz and Paulo Miao. And I'd be like, cool, this is fun. Like, yeah, man, I already got my ass beat by Lucas Pinheiro when I was a purple belt. Like, I don't need to redo it.
Did you?
Yeah.
Where?
Dallas.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I don't need to redo it at black. So, moving on, let's talk about the Masters 1 match between Paulo Miao and Lucas Pinheiro. Super high level match.
No, not Paulo, Zhao.
Zhao. You put Paulo.
I know.
Why.
I put Paulo, but later on I put Zhao because I got it wrong.
They also only give us the J for the name in the IBJJF. So.
Well, and if you try to look for this match, it doesn't have Miao. It just has the
Bourguignon.
Yeah.
Miao's fourth last name.
Yeah, it has that last name, not the Miao.
This is a match straight out of 2014.
Yeah.
This is a 2014 IBJJF adult finals match. It is like, hey, that's a nice 50-50 you have here. It would be a shame if someone tried to pinch grip bolo you for the entire match.
Yeah, and the thing is, it was nonstop. It wasn't like they ever.
It wasn't a bad match by any means, but it was like looking into a time capsule of like, oh yeah, this is a world finals match from 2014.
Yeah.
And it makes sense because both these guys, even Joao a little more, from the era.
And neither of them gave a shit about being swept. They were just like, I'm getting swept. Let me try it, and then let me sweep him back. And they just kept on sweeping each other back and forth. Yeah,
really, really great attempts for the De La Riva, and really, really great attempts from both guys on the bolo. And then you saw some great stopping of the berimbolo on both sides. And you showed me when we watched this match, there was a really interesting grip that Lucas Pinheiro took later in the match when he was up on points.
Like towards at the very end, he grabbed the one leg. I want to say it was the closest leg to him. I was trying to figure out which leg it was.
I thought it was a far leg.
No, it is the far leg when I think about it. Because he was boloing, so yeah, far leg, and he kind of like punch gripped the pants
to prevent Paulo from being able to like make this pull through. And it was a really interesting. And I would have missed it.
Yeah,
you just like you see Pinheiro just like punching this grip down. You're like, Joao needs that leg to be able to recenter his body to get back into the inversion that he wants to do, and you're not letting him finish this inversion because you're up, and you're just going to be able to push him out for 15 to 20 more seconds with this pant grip.
Yeah, and Miao at the end is just like, fuck the world, I'm going to try to do everything, and then it doesn't work.
It was a great match. Again, Lucas Pinheiro takes that on points. I think the points are 4-2 or 4-6.
No, it was like 4-6.
Yeah, something like that.
There's a lot of sweeps going
on. And then
a
lot of like ads and stuff too. It was a really fun match. Again, these guys have moved into Masters. I think Lucas Pinheiro has retired from adult, but we'll probably see him back.
He's retired.
He's retired.
And then he shows back up.
And then he'll be back. So, that was Euros. Miranda, anything else on Euros you want to run through?
I don't think so.
It was a lot. There were some really good matches. For
Peter
the finals.
Frank did a bunch of crazy arm bars.
Yes, he did.
If you want to go back, he did absolute and his weight. He won he either won his weight class or got second. I don't know. No, he got second in his weight class, and he took the picture, like, you know, all the memes where the guy in like third place is like the one that's
with the medal.
No, the guy in third place is like the most excited one of them all. Yeah. Like, oh, he does have a medal. But anyway, he did that in one of the pictures. I thought it was hilarious because the other guys were being all serious, and he's all like, yeah, I'm in second place.
He's happy to be there. Yeah, man. He's fun to watch. I like his game a lot.
Yeah. I just don't understand Portuguese, so I have no idea what his jokes.
I don't either.
He does all these jokes all the time, and I watch him, and I try to make sense of them. I don't.
Yeah. So, Euros was fun. Again, it kicks off the year for IBJJF. It is the first major. And it kicks it off. Again, I think... I like a lot of the rules that IBJJF have been doing, and I hope that aside from the weird gi rules they're going to implement later in the year, that it is another step forward for the IBJJF modernizing and getting kind of with the times of the sport.
Yep.
Moving on.
I forgot about that, man. I just got my IBJJF card back.
I'm never going to do it again.
It means I have to get my...
I've never registered.
I wonder if I have to get a new gi.
Haven't done them since 2016. Let's move on to Fight to Win 244 in Hawaii. Let's talk about the main event. Barry Yoshida beats Kim Taira to retain his title in Nogi. I think Masters Plus for Nogi here. This was exciting. This is actually a super close match. Kim Taira is very good. Barry Yoshida is also very good. Go back and watch him in like Jiu-Jitsu World League or ADCC or even the ADCC Opens. Yeah. He's been out there competing like every other weekend for a long time since like 2000. Barry Yoshida's been out there.
Kim Taira is the brother of Kaio.
Yes, this still competes. Kaio doesn't really compete anymore. Kim's still out there competing.
Yeah.
This was a lot of leg locks, and we don't typically see. We do see it occasionally, but this was more Barry Yoshida leg locks than I remember seeing in any of his recent matches. Maybe outside of. He did an ADCC Open, I think 2 or 3 Opens ago, where he was doing some leg locks there. But it is cool to see Yoshida kind of going back to the leg locks and then also going back, and he played a lot more from the Anaconda choke, which you've seen him playing with a lot more recently.
Well, he doesn't have a belt to choke people from crucifix.
Right? So he uses the Anaconda as like essentially like another wraparound to control the head. There's 2 good sequences there where he has Kim Taira's head controlled. I think Yoshida in this rule set throws up more of the submission attempts, especially the first Anaconda I think was pretty deep. The second Anaconda as the match was ending, I think he has in for position, but Kim Taira is pretty squared with him. So I don't think that it wouldn't be scoring, but it's still positional advancement for Fight to Win. So I think that's what gets him the win here. Again, it was close, but I think Yoshida is throwing up more of the submission attempts, especially with those 2 sort of wrapping choke attempts, and that lets him retain his title here at Fight to Win. So that does it for Fight to Win 244 in Hawaii. Again, I love to go to Hawaii now and again. I love to see the guys on Fight to Win. Let's see. Enigma we talked about earlier. We have one note that you really enjoyed Hunter Colvin hitting a double leg down the stairs.
Yes. That was a funny moment. That was my highlight of the first Hunter Colvin match. Somehow, so they had like a stage and they had the mats on the stage and they had people on the sides and people on the other side. They actually had somebody get thrown off the mats in the front of the stage too later on in the bracket. But the one that was great was Hunter Colvin literally double leg and just starts running a guy, and there's a staircase, and he just runs him down the staircase. And Hunter Colvin literally goes face first down the staircase, like kind of like, fuck it, I'm going, and just goes.
He is very much a fuck it, I'm going kind of guy. And that's why, again, go back and watch his ADCC matches. His trials matches. They're a lot of fun.
Yeah, there was a lot of, I would say there was a lot of draws in the first couple matches.
Which is what you can get in quintet. That's, the draw is a very strategic thing to be used in quintet matches.
Yeah.
Again, unfortunately, you do want to see the submissions. The missed matches are sort of what makes it fun, but all teams were very, very strong, so it makes sense that you're going to get a lot of draws in the match. Again, we don't have a replay up for it now. We may get a chance to talk about it next week, depending on how that shakes out, but we could watch it live, and that was it. There was no replay.
Well, no, there is a replay. You just have to buy it, and I already bought it once.
Right, you have to buy the replay again. So the live broadcast and the replay are separate, and so that's we draw a hard line for that because we already buy enough pay-per-views.
For $20 pay-per-views, I will try. I will try my best.
moving on, next week we have 2 events coming up. We're going to preview them both kind of slightly. We have the U.S. Grappling qualifiers for UWW, which we don't usually get a chance to cover on the show, but we have more and more folks that we see, like John Hansen and Brady Cooper. We see like Richard Alarcon was on there. We have Kevin Crane on there. Like, we have a lot of guys that are really high level and women that are high level as well.
We have John Hansen's wife.
On the Christina Hansen on there. We have Alex Enriquez has done them before. Her partner has done them as well. Like, it's usually a pretty good
Faye.
It's really usually a pretty good turnout. It's run in conjunction with AGF, as the note that Miranda has here. So we may get a chance to cover that next week. I don't know what the broadcast situation is for that.
Yeah, we'll see how the matches play out and how much coverage those matches have.
Yes, but UWW is a fun, interesting rule set. It is actually, if you know some history behind it, it is essentially, if jiu-jitsu, in quotes here, is ever going to get into the Olympics, the UWW is the organization that is going to be the one that does it, because it is essentially an Olympic feeder organization. It is run like you run an international sporting organization in sanctioning. It's not going to be ADCC. It's not going to be IBJJF. It'll be the UWW, because they are that's what they're set up to sort of do, and they're the international sanctioning body for submission grappling in that rule set. So we try to cover them because the U.S. team has been super strong the last couple of years under John Hansen as the team captain. I don't actually need to talk to John to see if he's still the team captain for that, but he was for the last, I think, 2 years. So curious about it.
I think he is, because I was telling him, I was like, hey, I want to do this someday. I think this would be fun. And he's like, no, you need to do it. It's the greatest experience ever. And I was
John's a huge proponent of it. And it's, again, I love his excitement for it. And he's been out there winning those for many years now. Since I think we covered him early in 2017 for Grappling Rewind, and he was on it then. So also this next week we have Main Character Jiu-Jitsu in Austin, Texas. It's on flightflix.tv. I think it's like a $20 or $25 pay-per-view.
I think it's $29.
Oh, the $30 pay-per-view. It's an expensive pay-per-view, but they do have a really stacked women's under 135-pound tournament cash prize. We have Mo Black, we have Amanda Bruce, we have Trinity Pond, we have Nicole Matthews, we have Peyton Letcher, we have Kayla Jackson. There's a
few others too, but they were the ones that I knew.
Yeah, those are the big names like that. That is a stacked tournament. Again, if there is a 135-pound no-gi cash prize tournament, half those names are always going to be the ones we're going to see. I think all of these ladies have matches against each other in the last 18 months.
I would assume so, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we've covered half of the matches against them. So, again, they always bring it. It is always exciting. There's also some other matches on the card. We'll see with the pay-per-view price, because there's a lot. On Grappling, we try to have one pay-per-view a month, because we already pay for a bunch of other. We already output a lot of money, so we try to budget it appropriately. It's a really cool card. I'll probably end up paying for it, but it is expensive.
Yeah, and it depends on how the weekend shakes out.
Yeah. So that is all we have for previews. Coming in 2 weeks, we have the Who's Number One. That is super exciting and stacked. I actually don't have it up right now.
I will look at it right this second.
But that we'll preview that coming up here in 2 weeks.
Davies versus Aliquin?
Yeah.
That's all I have.
Fionn Davies versus...
that's ADCC Open weekend.
Yep. And that's also the weekend that Zach and I are doing commentary for Copa Elite 3. Okay. So if you're in the Virginia area on February 10th, you can come and watch the event that Zach and I are commentating in Virginia, Copa Elite 3. It's a really fun card. They have a men's cash prize absolute division that is always a lot of fun. They also have some really fun matchups. Yuta Shimada's on the card. Josh is on the card. Yeah. There's a lot of other local talent and talent from around the way on the card, and it is always very well produced and a ton of fun. If you want to come to that is on February 10th, Copa Elite 3. I'm thinking what else we have.
The ADCC Open, if you want to come see, what is his name? His name just fell out of my head. Oh, man. Do you hate it when somebody's name completely falls out of your head?
Yeah, that's my
he
entire...
He was just at Pitt Submission.
Luke Griffith?
No.
Wagner Hosha?
Wagner Hosha is in the men's, I forget which men's bracket. He's in one of the men's adult brackets, and he's not ranked, so he's right in the middle, which means he's just going to fuck people up.
That's terrible.
Yeah, and it's a big bracket. He's gonna fuck people up,
That's
and
awesome.
I look forward to that. I hope that I'm not doing matches at that time, so I can
you
watch
watch
it,
Wagner.
and I can watch him talk shit to people while he competes with them.
He's a trip to watch compete live. Who's Number One will preview it in 2 weeks. It is happening on February 9th. So on next week's show, we have men's heavyweight match, Nick Rodriguez versus Victor Hugo. We have Micael Galvao taking on Kenta Iwamoto for the welterweight title. We have women's flyweight champion Fionn Davies taking on Amanda Tubby Aliquin. We have Dante Leon defending his lightweight title versus Diego Pato Oliveira. We have Jacob Couch taking on Sebastian Rodriguez. That'll be a lot of fun. And we have Tynan Dalper versus Oliver Taza. Again, another big step up in Nogi for Tynan Dalper. So that'll all be previewed next week. And then whatever else gets announced for the undercard.
How is Jacob Couch making middleweight?
185. He'll make 85. He'll be a big boy, but he'll make 85.
Okay.
Yeah, for Who's Number One match, he'll make 85.
Yeah, that's...
I think he usually does middleweight for Who's Number One.
Does he?
Yeah, I think so.
I thought he did heavy.
No, remember his match with Gordon, how undersized he was?
Yeah, but...
And Gordon was like 220. So it's
Yeah.
like, I think middleweight is... he's usually middleweight, I think. So yeah, that'll be exciting. I can't wait to preview that. It'll be fun. And then all the undercard matches. That's all I got.
Yeah.
I got basically just back to training. The university club is back in session, so I'm back to coaching that with Zach. And
I'm training, getting ready for ADCC Open.
and every other match. You're competing like what 3 times in the next
Yeah, I have.
month?
I'm doing ADCC Open, and then a couple weeks later, I'm doing Toro, and then a couple weeks later, I think I'm going to do Naga because it's at the Baltimore Convention
I
Center.
know. I'm thinking about the Naga too.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about it. I haven't done a
you just want a
Naga.
belt.
I haven't done a
I just want
Naga
a belt.
since
I like.
pre-back surgery.
I love Naga.
I think the
I don't know
Naga was my
why.
last tournament before back surgery.
I think I like Naga, kind of like I like junk food.
I've always had a fun time.
Yeah.
Like, you know going to a Naga that it's gonna be long. You're gonna be there. You plan for being there
And
all
you
day,
have no clue what's going to happen.
and then you never know
You
what's
never
gonna
know
happen.
what's gonna
They
happen.
throw that shank in the middle for the finals match. Like you never know what's gonna happen.
Yeah, I mean,
I always have a fun time at Naga.
Yeah.
It was the first tournament I ever did, and it holds a special place in my heart.
I think me
for,
too.
like-
It was the first
Yep.
tournament I ever did.
It's like,
too.
look, it's gonna run all day, all night,
At least
and
now,
then you're gonna go.
Now it's in smooth comp, so now at least you have sort
And they
of an
still have
idea.
day before weigh-ins, which I love. They're one of the few tournaments I think that still does that. So it's
Well,
like
ADCC Open does.
I know, but I'm so excited. So those are coming up. I got nothing else. I'm training.
Oh yeah,
Happy to be
then
back in
Copa.
town.
Copa's coming to Maryland on 420
Ooh.
at Dundalk, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It'll be fun. We'll probably be there doing some commentary. So that'll be in a couple
Oh.
months. So, Miranda, you got anything else?
No, just training.
No.
Trying to be a bad brown belt.
That does it for this week. Best of the end. As always on the show, I am your host, Maine, joined by the co-host.
Miranda.
We are the Grappling Rewind. Tell them what it is. Stay safe. If you like the show, please consider sharing it on Facebook with the folks at your gym. It's the best way that we grow the show, and we really appreciate it. You can reach out to us on email.
We also have Instagram, we have Facebook, we have Twitter, we have Google+,
Until that shuts down.
we have a website.
If you have an event you would like to have us cover, please let us know. If you have a name, like most people do, and you'd like to have us stop butchering it,
Let us know.
reach out to us. The show is also available on YouTube, Spotify, in addition to iTunes and every other podcast service. We very much appreciate your time, and thank you.